So I just feel like I want to flag, let's be honest about how manipulative we can be in our minds and how we're like, I'm trying to like, never mind. Next question.
Oh, wait, I have a question off of that question.
Okay.
So you say he doesn't owe you anything until he proposes. Does he owe you anything after he says I love you?
No, I don't think he does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we owe each other to treat each other well.
Right.
You know, I think, what's that new television show here where they're evaluating like how relationships and the crazy things people do to each other, like the Seinfeld one. Yeah, I think we owe it to each other to treat each other in ways that would not land us on a reality TV show. But no, I think, and that's the hard part. I remember Deidre telling me about how her grandmother explained, like, until he makes a commitment to spend his life with you, you're both exploring and you're both free to leave.
Yeah.
And that kind of bites. It does. But I do think if we can, you know, the Bible says to guard your heart. And I think that's in large part what it's talking about, is this idea that if we maybe invest less in the front end, we won't be as crushed if it doesn't work out. And so the bounce back time is less. And we're not these, you know, I think at a certain point I was sort of just like shredded from all of the heartbreak. And so, you know, a guy can't, you know, there were certain guys I met and I think I was just such a wreck from being like picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped and picked up and dropped that there was just nothing left of Trish for him to even figure out who I was. And it took a while to piece me back together into someone whole from all of those. So I think to the extent to which we can like be cool, guard our hearts, and not look at something for more than what it actually is. Because if you think about it, actually, technically, until we're married, anyone can walk away. You can walk away, he can walk away. It's not until you're actually legally married that you're both in it. And that there are other people involved before you can walk away. You can't just break up anymore. So, I don't know, and that's kind of yucky, right? But if we think about it from the other perspective, you're dating a guy and you find out he has always cheated on his taxes, and you find out he actually treats his mother horribly, and maybe has a criminal record, or like you find out these things that it's not just that he has a past, but maybe he has a past that he's never dealt with and he's not sorry about. You get to walk away. And that's not a small thing. And so I think all of us need to keep that in mind too, that we have feet that we might be called on by God to use to get out of a situation. So I'm not sure how that's my happy ending to that answer. Let's move on. I hear marriage is so difficult. Does it at times feel unnatural to be with just one man for the rest of your life? Interesting question. I'll say for me, no. But I think, so that's the other big thing I've realized since I've gotten married, is that no two marriages are alike. I think we've been sold a bill of goods by all these books that say, like, this is what you need to do for marriage, and this is, you know, you have to communicate this way, and conflict is inevitable, and this is what a happy marriage looks like, and you have to have sex this many times a week, and you should at this point have 2 children, and at this point you should buy a boat. I don't know. And I don't know anyone whose marriage looks like mine. I know a lot of marriages, I sort of respect how the man and the woman treat each other. But in terms of how they negotiate even basic things, it's all different. And so I do think, especially for a woman, there's a security to being with one man. But it is strange because sexually, you long for sex desperately, and then you get married, and you want it a whole lot less. I think that has been documented worldwide in women. Like, it is the strangest thing. But the good news is, with a little effort and some intention, you can come against that. And what I've noticed, partly I think because Steve and I didn't have sex before we got married, and it's not that it would have been a tragedy if we had. I just think it would have mucked up my head a little bit. And so I'm glad we didn't. And so when we did, finally, I think after marriage what we experienced was kind of like the sex kept getting better as opposed to worse. Because it wasn't just like passionate, hot, you like me sex that we might have had back here. It was like, wow, we're in it for the long haul, so we better figure some stuff out. And I'm clumsy. And so figuring some stuff out took some time. I'm trying to be very careful here. Steve is going to be like, you said what? And so it's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool to have the freedom to like laugh and enjoy that and figure out like who are we, and as time goes on, how does that change? And so I don't know if it's natural or unnatural. I think my pitch would be that it's good. I will say one of my big, no, I'm going to save that. We'll talk about that in 2 weeks. Never mind. We're going to have a whole thing about sex in 2 weeks. So I'm like, that's probably deeper than we want to get tonight. So yeah, I don't know if it's natural or unnatural. There are all these studies that show that, like, women should be with one man so he'll protect the young, and men should be with many and spreading his seed. And I think, how is that helpful? Like, why are they putting out this research, and why are we reading it? None of us want that life, right? And so I just think, like, let's disregard. And I think what Jesus offers us is a promise that he can make marriage really good, because he seems pretty pro-marriage. And so I would just say, well, Jesus, I would like to opt into that plan. Could you bring the right man to opt in with me? Mm-hmm. We have some opting in going on. Yeah, and I think there is something to actually saying, I want to opt into that plan. We talked about the Proverbs 14, a wise woman builds her house, a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. I used to go around saying, I'm fine, I don't need to be married, I'm fine on my own, I'm happy, independent woman. Lies, lies, lies. I mean, I liked my life okay, but I wanted to be married, and I don't know why I thought admitting that was a big deal. And I think I could have been building into my house by just saying, like, yeah, someday I want to be married. I don't know when that's going to happen. I would like to be a good wife when the time comes. And so if along the way I can pick up some skills that would help me in that regard, count me in. Does that make sense? Okay. Can you talk about the practice of praying for your husband and filtering out manipulation? How to talk to God about his best for our marriage, for my husband. We touched on this a little bit earlier. I think this is key, actually both when you're married and before you're married. Thinking about the words you use when talking to God about the relationship you want. Because I don't know if you guys find this, like, even before I met Steve, I had sort of like an image of a husband in my brain. Does that make sense? I don't know, it wasn't just a void. There was sort of like a prototype husband. He didn't have a face, but he was like formless. But with a form, I don't know how to describe it. But I sort of felt like I was praying about someone specific. And I did find there were a couple of ways I could go at that. I could go at it saying, make him perfect for me as I am now. So I wanted a guy who was a certain build, liked sports, liked New England. Like, there was sort of a list of qualities I thought would be my ideal man. But what I'd also learned, so I'd made a list, like an actual list like that before I was married the first time. And I listed, I think, 5 qualities. I don't remember what all of them were. But I put them down and I told the universe that was what I wanted. And that was totally what I got in my first husband. Like, he had all those qualities. The problem was I left a lot of things off that list. Like, not anger prone, like not violent. Some basics.